Our very last video is going to walk you through how to do a callback and then a few miscellaneous things. So several different callbacks that we want to go over. The first one is just to fill an empty shift. So we're going to go to callback. Actually, let's go to crew scheduler. And let's go to the monthly calendar view. As shift supervisors, you ought to be looking at the open slots. An open slot will be made when someone's vacation is approved or there just hasn't been someone scheduled. So we're going to take tomorrow, Tuesday, December 15th, and click on the open slot that's there at the bottom for the intern. If you look at that, we can go ahead and just enter in an employee, and if we know who the intern is that's going to be working, we could certainly do that. But we're going to use this as a callback opportunity. So we're going to go to the bottom of this little box and select Fill with Callback. Okay, automatically it fills in the dates and times for us in step number 1. At the very bottom of step number 1, we have the option to ignore a call period. In callback staffing, we have already set the call period to be from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. per our SOG. The only time you would click ignore call period is if you need to send out a callback immediately. That would be something for like an emergency callback if someone calls in sick, or maybe you have a different type of callback, like you want to staff a critical care transport. You can also, on the right-hand side of the screen, schedule that callback to occur at a different time. If you need it to happen, say, at noon for some reason, you could certainly do that. For today, though, we're just going to uncheck the schedule callback, and we're going to scroll down to step number 2. All right, we have several different lists that we can use to schedule our callback. The one that we're going to use the most of the time is the full-time coverage. This is the same as our Rolodex. Occasionally, duty chiefs might want to cover duty chief with a captain or another chief, and that's what the duty chief coverage is. If we're covering an intern-only slot, our primary callback is going to be from intern coverage, and the only people on that list are our current interns. Transports, we'll go over this a little bit later, but everyone who is EMS qualified is under the transport list. Paid call coverage is anyone, fire or EMS. Correction, everyone only EMS that can cover first or second out ambulance shifts. And then event coverage is everyone, fire or EMS. Okay, so we're going to select full-time coverage. And then click the Add button. Once that position has been added, we're going to scroll down just a little bit. We have one position to fill. We want to start to filter this a little bit. So if we click on the filter by classification, if for some reason we needed a captain or a chief or a field training officer or someone, we could select that. Remember, each one of these things that you select is an and, not an or. So if you select captain and a chief, you're actually not going to get anyone in the callback list because there's not someone who is both a captain and a chief. Okay, you might have someone who is a captain and a field training officer though, and so you could select both of those. Okay, so let's hit OK. We could include or exclude groups if we wanted. We talked about groups in another video, but we're not going to include or exclude any group at this time. If we wanted to, we could exclude certain users. For example, let's say Captain Haberly is on light duty right now and he can't come in and cover a shift. We can just go ahead and exclude him from being called back. If we wanted to include someone, we could go ahead and put them in. Let's say that we wanted to include Chief Walker. He would be added to our list. Although he's not a captain or necessarily an FTO, we could add him in anyway. All right, we can add a text message. We have 70 characters to where you can put in something important like, please help me with this shift tomorrow. The intern called in sick. You can add more information under the phone message section. If we scroll down just a little bit more, you can see you have 300 characters left. All right. Next is our wait time. Our protocol says that each person has 10 minutes to make a decision, so that is the default. If you click on no wait time, everyone in the full-time shift coverage list that you've selected will receive the callback opportunity at once, and it creates a first come, first serve. If by chance, per protocol, you want to ignore everyone's availability and you want to send out a message to everybody, regardless of whether they worked 48 hours previously or they're on vacation, or for some other reason they've marked themselves as unavailable, you can click the yes box next to ignore availability. We also have the option of enabling a secondary callback. A secondary callback kicks in after the primary callback has been unsuccessful. This might be if you only want to contact paid call members first. You can certainly do that under the primary callback, and then you could contact all full-time members for a secondary callback. For today's purposes, we're just going to ignore the secondary callback, and we're going to go ahead and preview the information we put in already. It would be important that you look at the list of people on the right-hand side. It will let you know who is going to be contacted and who is not. For this particular callback, only 2 people are going to be contacted, and that's okay. If for some reason you found an error, you can always go to the very bottom and click on the Make Changes button and adjust whatever you need to adjust. We're going to go ahead and click the Start Callback, and we're going to initiate the callback process. Okay, it'll bring you to a callback details section. We can scroll down a little bit, and we can see who is going to be contacted and in what order, and what the status is going to be. As shift supervisors, we just need to make sure that the callbacks that we initiate have been completed before the end of our shift. While this callback is running, I want to show you how to do a callback for an event that we scheduled earlier. So we're going to go back to the crew scheduler and monthly calendar view. And we're going to go to December 15th. If you remember in a previous video, we initiated a critical care transport callback. So we're going to click on Tuesday, December 15th. And we're going to find our critical care transport. By clicking on the open slot, we're going to once again have the opportunity to fill with callback, and that's what we're going to do. Everything stays the same through step 1, except we are going to ignore the call period because we want to send this out immediately. And then we're going to scroll down to step number 2. And we're going to change the list to transports because this is a transport. All right, we want to actually break this into 2 different positions. So we're going to change this to position to fill as being 1. And then we're going to filter by classification. So we only need 1 critical care paramedic for this transport. So that's why we're going to select just 1 position right now. We're going to select critical care paramedic. Okay, as we scroll down, we're not going to worry about including or excluding groups or including or excluding users. However, under the phone message part, we want to be very specific about the patient information. We have 300 characters, so we can get all the detailed information we want about the critical care transport to primary children's. We could put in that the patient is on a ventilator, that the patient is receiving multiple IV infusions by IV pump, and exactly what those are. We can put in some special instructions from the doctor. That way, as the critical care paramedic gets this information, they'll be able to determine if this is something that matches their experience level or not. One of the cool things about callback staffing is if you have the callback staffing app, this information that we copy in under the phone message shows up as a text message on your app when you open that up. Okay, we're going to scroll back to the top because we need 1 more position. So we're going to go back to step number 2, and we're going to add 1 more position through transports. So click on the Add button, and you can see we now have 2 tabs, one for each position. Our first position was critical care. This next one, we can simply have anyone on the transport list. Okay, so that could be another critical care provider or an EMT or anyone. So we'll scroll down, and perhaps in the notes section of this one, we can put that this position is that we need a driver. Okay, as we scroll down, a lot of the things that we put on one tab will transfer to the other tab. So let's take a look at what we have for the critical care paramedic. By selecting the critical care, you can see as we scroll down just a little bit that the messages stay different for each job assignment, although the task of performing the critical care transport is the same. All right, if we scroll all the way down, we're going to go ahead and preview the callback. You can see there's 2 tabs in the upper left-hand corner. One is for our critical care paramedic, and you can see that all of our critical care paramedics that are available to be contacted will be. We can also click on the other tab, and we can see that everyone else in the department that has EMS certification is also going to be contacted. Now all we have to do is scroll down and initiate the callback, and we will get our critical care paramedic and our driver, hopefully, by using these 2 different positions. All right, so a couple different ways to do callbacks. Now just a couple of miscellaneous things. I want to show you how to add a label to someone in the crew scheduler. So if you go to monthly calendar view, and on whichever day you'd like to select, let's select the 14th, it would be important for you to designate who the shift supervisor is. So we're going to scroll down to the full-time employees who are working. We're going to pick my name. And in this box under labels, we're just going to select a label to add. And the SUP or the SUP label stands for supervisor. That lets Amber or anyone else know who the shift supervisor for that day is. And then we're going to save it. You'll notice that the first out and second out also have a label. And those could be changed if they decided to swap during the day, or for whatever reason we wanted to add a label to someone else, we certainly could. Right now, the only labels that are required are the shift supervisor and then the first out and the second out. There is an option to add multiple labels to each person. So, for example, if you want to use this as a shift assignment tool, and you want to mark your shift supervisor as your second out or your third out, you can certainly do that. You can also take your first out ambulance crew and your second out ambulance crew, and you can designate them as well by adding the label first out and second out. So that is labels in a nutshell. One last thing that I want to show you is how to send a reminder. So as shift supervisors, as we're reviewing the schedule for the next day, you can click on your first out and second out day and night, and you can go over to the bottom right-hand corner of this box that pops up, and you can click yes, send an SMS text reminder, and as soon as you hit modify user, they will receive a text notification that they are scheduled for a shift the next day and the hours. This is a helpful tool that you can use and help your first and second out day and night for following days be reminded of the shifts that they're scheduled.